Hello there, Adita Lang here, and in today's class we are going to be making some yummy zucchini pizza and also some hummus pizza and hummus. So get ready, let's do this. But one thing I want to do is I'm going to also teach you as we're doing this how to make things quickly and easily. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to end up doing zucchini pizzas and we're going to do hummus pizzas. And we're going to kind of blend the way we do them so then that way it makes it not cost effective, time effective. So we're going to start off with garlic. Now I am doing 4 zucchinis. I would probably say do 1 garlic clove per zucchini if you wanted to think of it that way. And I'm also going to be doing the hummus, and with the hummus I'm going to need garlic as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is chop up all the garlic for both recipes. Now when the garlic has that skin on the outside, I just dropped the garlic, there we go, that really, that skin, to get the skin off, which it's kind of funny, a lot of people don't know, take the back of your knife, place it so the hump is on top and just break it. And so you can break them all and then the skin comes right off. And then that way what we're going to do is we are going to try to not have to chop so much and we're going to use the food processor with that. So I basically just smashed them all, then now the skin falls off like paper, which is great, and it makes our life so much easier. So I'm going to take all of this off of here. And then we are going to use the food processor. So my food processor is like a Cuisinart, and honestly, I have all these different blades for it, but I just basically keep it with the knife blades. That one cuts everything, and I don't have to keep changing things around. So I'm going to end up doing that in here. And for garlic, it's great because it just chops it all the way up. So we're going to put them in the food processor. It makes a little bit of noise. But basically, see, it chopped it all up. Took 2 seconds, make life easy, right? And so with that said, I am going to end up spooning it out into this plate. Let me get rid of the skins. So half the garlic is going to stay in here, and then the other half of the garlic is going to be used for zucchini pizzas. And so what we're going to do now is I have the oven already preheated at 350. I've left half the garlic in here. And we're going to start with our zucchini pizzas. And then as our zucchini pizzas is cooking, we'll make the hummus and the hummus pizza, and then we'll be all done. So with the zucchinis, you want them firm. You want to get a good firm zucchini, and then you're going to chop up both ends. I'm going to end up doing 4 of these. So I'm going to chop up all the ends, all the way through. And, as all vegetables, they provide so many nutrients and minerals as well. So you just want to start adding in things. And I have a small trick with the zucchini pizza. Let's say you made too many zucchini pizzas. They're not great to freeze and reuse, but guess what? They are great to freeze, then you thaw them out and blend them, and you make a marinara sauce out of them because we're putting garlic and tomatoes in here as well. So we're going to cut the zucchinis in half. And these are going to be the base for our zucchini pizza. Now, if you wanted to, or let's say you were doing appetizers, or maybe you had kids, then you could cut them in wheels and make little ones. It just takes a little bit more time because now you have more wheels to do. So we're cutting all of these in half. I'm going to spread them out on a cookie sheet, which is right here. There we go, cookie sheet. And so we're going to just spread these out completely. And now we're going to decide what is our base. So with that said, I have some sweet peppers, which are always pretty yummy. And I'm going to cut these into little wheels, taking the stems off. So I'm going to just cut them into thin little wheels all the way through. Now, if you had kids and they were picky eaters, I say put them in the food processor again. But if you don't, if you're dealing with adults, then you can just cut it into wheels, and then we're going to set those onto our zucchini pizzas. We're also going to use marinara sauce. Today's marinara sauce that I have is Paisan's Organic Tomato and Basil. When you have a marinara sauce, I want you to look at the ingredients. As I mentioned in our other workshops before, if you can't pronounce it, don't know what it is, let's not eat it. So I want you to make sure that marinara sauce does not have sugar. There's no need for sugar in marinara sauce. And all you want is vegetables. So this one has tomatoes, onions, olive oil, garlic, salt, basil, and black pepper. That's it. That's all it has. So we're going to take this, and I'm actually going to use my little spatula here, and I'm going to spread the marinara sauce on our zucchinis, just like that. Quick, easy, because that's really the goal of all this, right? We want to be able to eat very well but yet it not take so much time in the kitchen. So I'm spreading all these out, and I will show them to you as they're spread. There we go. And you can get as creative as you want with these. So I'm kind of giving you a couple of ideas of things that you can place on these, but you don't have to be limited to that. You could get as creative as you wanted to. So let's see here. These need a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So with that said, I have them there. See? We put, that's just basic tomato sauce. Now the wheels that I made, I'm going to place those on here as well. And then I have a couple more peppers to cut, but we're going to place those wheels on there. And they take about 35 minutes to cook. So we're going to place all this on here. And it's kind of like we're just decorating them with stuff, really. Take the little yellow one too. Sweet peppers are very yummy, and I actually use sweet peppers a lot to make sofrito for like beans, and that is also quite yummy too. So we're placing these peppers on here. And then we're also going to chop up, I did not get big tomatoes. I usually get big tomatoes, makes life easier. But I have little tomatoes. So I'm going to slice these guys into little flat things too. Little wheels, basically. And we're just going to add a couple on here just to add in some extra flavor. We're also going to use some sun-dried tomato with this recipe. So we're putting in just a little bit of tomatoes here. And let's do one more. Okay, so now, keeping in mind, let's see, we got all that going on. We're going to put in a little bit of our garlic, and we're just going to drizzle it on top. Just a little bit, all over. And like I said before, if you've got questions, feel free to unmic yourself and ask, because I'm here to help. And I want you to kind of notice that, you know, the kitchen doesn't have to be tedious and time-consuming. We can get through the kitchen pretty quick here. And then the key is, I always have a big rule of thumb. The person who cooks doesn't clean. So always make sure that you have that rule in your house. We don't want to have to clean. Let me rinse off my hands. And I'm going to get here some sun-dried tomatoes. I got the organic ones from Whole Foods. These are actually sitting in olive oil, which I much prefer olive oil than your traditional safflower oil. Safflower oil is not very good. So keep in mind that all of your oils should always be cold pressed unrefined. And so safflower oil and canola oil and all those are all refined oils, which are not very good for us. So these are very large sun-dried tomatoes, so I'm actually going to chop them into tiny little pieces here very quickly. So I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to chop them up so we can put them on our zucchini pizza. Now, my household is a dairy-free household. That doesn't mean yours has to be, though. So I want you to be sure that on these pizzas to put cheese on them. Feel free to use all kinds of cheeses. They actually turn out quite yummy that way. So now, put a little bit of sun-dried tomato on there. I also pulled up some fresh basil from my garden. I'm going to put those on there too. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear, but for whatever reason, my cat has decided that this smells really yummy. So she's sitting down here by my feet begging, which is kind of hysterical. Maybe the cat's Italian, I don't know. Okay, so let's see, here we go. We're here so far. See that? Now, we're going to top it off with a little bit of oregano on all of them. Okay, and we're going to top it off with fresh basil leaves. Right on top. And then right here is where you put your cheese and add that on there. And then we are good to put these guys in the oven. And like I said, you can get as creative as you want with these. Don't limit yourself to the ingredients I told you. You can put all sorts of stuff on this. I actually have a client of mine that she made them and she shredded chicken on it. And they turned out actually very yummy. So we'll put that on there. Okay. We are now good to go. So these are going to go in the oven at 350 degrees. For about 35 minutes. There we go. So that's going. So now as that's going, can we talk hummus? Let's talk hummus now, right? Let me move this stuff over. So hummus is made with garbanzos. I have a fairly large can. This is kind of equal to 2 cans of garbanzos. These are organic garbanzos. The key to buying canned garbanzos is to make sure that the can is BPA free. They tend to line them with plastic, which we don't want. So BPA free cans, and it's organic. And then what I did was I drained it before you guys got on the line. And so now we have our garlic in there. I'm actually going to add in this little extra garlic that I had from here. So the garlic is usually the first thing you want to blend. If we weren't making the hummus pizzas, you do the garlic first because it makes it smaller first. Then the next thing we're going to put in there is called hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are amazing. They don't really have a flavor, which is part of what makes them amazing. And they are a complete protein, and they provide essential fatty acids. What are essential fatty acids? To make it very simple, it feeds our brain. And that way we don't forget where our keys are. So I love adding hemp seeds whenever I can. You can use this in smoothies. You can put it in a cereal if you wanted to, or an oatmeal. And I stick it in our hummus. So I'm going to be putting these in here too, but I'm doing them now because, again, I'd like to get them chopped before I add in the garbanzos. So let me chop this up very quickly here. There we go. So now we're going to add in the garbanzos. And here's the thing about garbanzos. So garbanzos are considered an incomplete protein. What does that mean? Well, if we were like in a chemistry class and there was like this chemical combination, it just means one piece of the combination is missing. And that happens with all beans. So what replaces that piece that's missing is going to be either a grain or a seed. So with traditional hummus, they add in tahini, and tahini is made out of sesame seeds. So this, in addition to the hemp seeds, to be honest, will make it a complete protein. So we are going to put about a teaspoon of this in here. There we go. And we're going to add that into there. And we are going to add a pinch of, I like to use Himalayan sea salt. This is the pink stuff, right? But the 2 salts that are my favorite are Himalayan sea salt and Celtic sea salt. Celtic sea salt, when you buy it in the store, sometimes it looks like it's really brown and dirty and maybe even kind of wet in there. That's the good stuff. Unfortunately, like traditional table salt, they strip everything out of there. So what happens is that in order for us to break down and digest the salt, it has to take something. It has to steal something from our body. We don't want our salt to steal anything from our body. So we want to make sure that we're giving it the good salt that has everything that's needed. So we're going to add in some salt into here. And now we are going to basically add in the olive oil, to be honest. And the olive oil is what's going to make it smooth. Now, if you were like, you know what, I don't want to add that much olive oil into my hummus. What do I do? You can add in like part olive oil and part water if you wanted to. You just need it in there to make it smooth. So now we're blending. And it'll start blending gritty, and then all of a sudden it'll start to smooth down. And if you wanted to get it smoother, you could either add in more olive oil or some water. In this case, I'm going to add in more olive oil. And I'm going to move some of the garlic off of the wall. What happened to I lost my tool. There it is. Okay. No, we won't use that tool. Okay, I'm going to get this one just to get some of the garlic off the wall, right, so that we don't miss that good stuff. So garlic is an antibacterial and antimicrobial. You know, with all this like COVID stuff going on and flus and colds and all that stuff, that's when you load up on garlic because it helps to block all that stuff away. We're almost there. I think we've done a pretty good job here. Let's see. Yep. So we have hummus. So now what are we going to do with this hummus? That's what I'm going to show you next. Let me move some of the stuff off from what we made. So that we have a cleared out area here. And so now I encourage, in the recipe that you have, I usually encourage Ezekiel wraps. So Ezekiel is basically sprouted wheat, which is much more nutritious than regular processed wheat, if you had to choose one. But when I went to the store, I found these. I was actually very curious. They're made with almond flour. And I eat some other things from this brand, which is actually pretty yummy. So I thought, you know, let's try this today and see if it works. So I'm going to use the almond flour wrap today. I've never used them before, so hopefully they'll turn out pretty good. And so what we're going to do here is basically you're just going to take your hummus and you're going to spread it in between two wraps. That's it. Now at the same time too, which I did not do, I'm going to turn on my pan to medium. So I have a pan here with olive oil in it. And I'm going to spread this. Now, here's the thing with this. So again, inside this wrap, you can get crazy. You can do all sorts of stuff. So you can put in sun-dried tomatoes if you want to. You can put in cheese if you want to. You can put in anything you want inside here with the hummus. And here's what we're going to end up doing is we are going to basically just close it in 2 tortillas. Just like that. And then once this heats up, we're going to give that a minute. I'm going to make a few more. Once that heats up, we're basically going to brown it. And then I have my pizza cutter, and we're going to cut it into little pizza triangles. And my kids eat this for snacks all the time. I eat it for snacks all the time. It can stay good. Now, we used no animal proteins in these, right? So with that said, this can last you in the refrigerator for a good 4 to 5 days. So it's something that you can always reach to. Now, your hummus can last you into the refrigerator for almost 6 days. And that way you have a good snack. And as I mentioned in previous classes, hummus is just, it's a multi-purpose tool. That's how I want you to think about it. So you have friends over and you're making turkey sandwiches and you would like to make a little bit something extra, make it seem a little bit more decadent. What about hummus, turkey, sliced avocado, sandwich? Very good, very yummy. What about an avocado toast with also some hummus, maybe some hot peppers, and some sliced cucumber? One of my favorite mixes right there. So the hummus has multi-purposes. The other thing is if you like creamy dressings and you're like, okay, you know what? The creamy dressings have a lot of calories. I don't want all those calories and I need to work on my nutrition, right? So what about making a creamy dressing using hummus as your base for the cream? Interesting. So hummus in olive oil, blend it up with olive oil, and then from there you can get creative. I've put a little bit of mango. I know it sounds strange, but a little bit of mango in there. Tastes quite yummy. What else have I put in there? Of course, garlic, always. You can do garlic and rosemary. And there's just other ways of making a creamy dressing. So just think about that. You can think of hummus as a mayonnaise, as a dressing, and just as kind of a multi-purpose tool. And of course, as a snack, if you wanted a good snack, because now, as you know, this is a complete protein. So it's going to fill us up. That's the thing about protein. Protein takes longer to digest. So because it takes longer to digest, guess what? It's going to keep us fuller longer. Okay, we're going to try to make one of these right now with our almond flour. Let's see how that goes. So usually what I like to do, I like to pull out the tongs, and that way I can flip it. Okay, now as we're waiting for this guy to cook, do you guys have any questions? Any questions from the last 2 classes maybe, or anything else? Please feel free to ask. But notice that this hasn't
Hi,
taken as much
Adita.
time. Hi.
So I have a quick question because I know that you mentioned the complete and incomplete proteins, but of course I'm seeing these are plant proteins. So my question is, what's the difference between plant protein and animal protein? Because I wonder if you're a full vegan or a vegetarian, does it matter that you're not eating any animal protein?
Okay, so a couple of things. Let me kind of break down protein as easily as I can. First off, protein is what our body utilizes for repair, and that is a very important thing. And so protein is a very important part of any diet. Vegan, not vegetarian, it doesn't matter. We need to have protein. So the key is to have that complete protein so that we have basically the protein molecule that goes into our muscles and feeds our muscles and helps our body repair. You can get that both with plant and animal. The only difference is going to be the nutritional content. There's a different, like there's an iron content in red meat, right? Which you're not necessarily going to get. You're not going to get that same intensity of iron content. You get some iron in beans, but you're not going to get the full gamut as you would with red meat. So there is the difference nutritionally. But other than that, you're fine. I do, though, I think that's probably the one thing when I'm dealing with people who are vegetarian, vegan, the protein becomes an issue. It's like everyone just kind of forgets what to eat. And so they're like, I'm vegetarian, so I'm only going to eat vegetables and then like processed type things. And now there's all these like, make a burger, vegetarian burger things. Going back to what I've said in past lectures, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it, right? So you want to look at the ingredients of these. I actually had a client recently who was all over that. She was eating some kind of like, plant-based sausage and a plant-based chicken and a plant-based this. And I just looked at her and I said, well, then I don't understand. I said, why do you feel that you need to replace chicken if you've decided you're going to become vegetarian, right? So if you wanted to eat like a bean burger that just has vegetables and beans in it and some kind of a grain to make that bean complete, that's a great way of doing it. But the other kind of things aren't. So I hope that kind of answered your question. I mean, I think complete plant-based proteins are fabulous, but you just want to make sure that you're getting enough protein throughout the day.
Got it, got it. Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of, confusing information out there and misinformation. So it was always like in my head, oh, plant versus meat protein. People saying, oh, yeah, vegetarians, they're not getting the meat proteins, and that's not good. So it's understandable now that the iron content is pretty much like the main difference on it.
And here's the thing too. I know that there is a complete factor for some people that don't want to eat. See, so this got crispy like this. I'm going to let that cool off and then I'll cut it. There are people that don't want to eat animals because, they're conscientious of the animals, and I get that. I completely get that. But at the end of the day, we all break down and digest foods differently. So with that said, some people need to have animal protein, and some people will actually feel better. So I've had clients before that they're not losing weight the right way, they feel sluggish, their energy levels aren't right, and it's because they needed a little bit of animal protein in their diet. And once we kind of accepted that, then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, I had no idea. So, the idea is that food is supposed to give us nutrients, it's supposed to energize us, it's supposed to keep us healthy so that we don't get sick all the time. So if you start noticing that you're having some challenges, then you have to start looking at your food going, am I making the right food choices for myself? So like me, Adita, I eat probably 80% vegetarian. And then that last 20% I'll have animal protein here and there. And that's how I feel great. Like I feel fabulous from it. When sometimes if I'm sick and I don't eat animal proteins, then I feel even more sluggish. So I know I kind of need to. It's not necessarily my first choice, but I do it because I know I kind of need to. So just keep that stuff in mind. And here's the thing, and I think I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but lifting weights is really important. And the reason it's very important to lift weights is because your muscles actually store protein. So kind of bear with me. It's storing protein. And so then when you're sick or you get injured where your body needs protein to help fix and regenerate the body, it has a storage supply of protein. You don't have to scramble to try to, all of a sudden start eating protein. You want to have this storage unit in your body is a much healthier way of living, basically. So just kind of remember that too. But the only way we can store protein is by lifting weights.
Super interesting. Thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. In a long, roundabout way, but I did answer it. Okay, so here I have the little hummus guy. He's browned, and I'm going to take my pizza cutter and basically just cut it up into triangles. And yum, there you go. You got a great snack. And those, I put them in an airtight container, put them in the refrigerator. They'll last for, like I said, 4 days, maybe even 5. And you can add anything you want to in here. You can put vegetables in here if you wanted to. You could put, I actually have a client, she put bacon in hers. And I must say they did taste good. If I had to really admit it, they did. She did sun-dried tomatoes and bacon and hummus, and it was kind of yummy. So there's different ways of doing it. But again, keeping the idea of that we want to make sure that we're being as nutritious as we can with our foods and adding in a lot of, basically your fruits and vegetables are your multivitamin. Let's see. I'm going to pull these guys out so you can see them. Let me move that. Okay. Okay. Voila. Right? And so from there, we just cut and serve, my friends. It's basically just cut and serve. And you have your hummus pizza as like your appetizer or your snack, or it could even be lunch, to be very honest. You should be good to go. Thank you for joining me in today's class. Well, I hope you made yourself a yummy snack or meal. Remember, your food is fuel. So boosting up all of those antioxidants and vitamins and minerals is what keeps us powerful. Enjoy.